Hello, my name's Rob and welcome to Swift Slots. Now over the last few months I've bought a few extra slot cars, who'd have thought it. Some of those cars you've seen on this channel, but some you haven't. So what I thought I would do is I'd make one video per day for the next 4 days and I would just document each of these cars briefly. So we'll take them apart on the table, show you inside, pop them on the turntable and then gently run them around Ricard Valley just so that we can see them in motion. So without further ado, let's get on my table and start these reviews. Okay, my next car for this short series is this awesome RS200, again by Scalextric, and it is part number C432 RS200 in the shell livery. And as you can see, this car is in really good condition. The box again is in really good condition, and I was very pleased to find this one. Now these cars normally sell for about £40 or sort of $45, somewhere around there, and especially in a nice tidy condition box they can go for a little bit more than that. I don't quite know why, but that's the sort of money that they fetch. Now this one I got on eBay for £20, so that's about $25. I was extremely pleased to find this one because this is one of the cars that I had back in the early 90s when I had my first sort of proper Skelectric set as an adult, not as a child. And I remember this car well, and I loved this car in my original set. It was, at the time, I recall it being very quick, and obviously I remember it being four-wheel drive as well, which indeed this one is. Now obviously back in the day, the tyres would have been a lot more supple than this car will be today, but so you're going to have a slightly better grip. But this car was incredibly good in its day, as I remember. Now I'm not expecting it to be good now, and it won't be good now, but in the day, back in the early 90s, I loved this car. I loved driving it, and I remember it being an extremely good handling car. And as you can see, it's got the same internal case as the BMW M1 with that kind of fast graphic background, and it's just a lovely car. And I've been holding out to get one of these for a long time back in my collection because I was waiting for the right car. Now you can pick these cars up for about $20, about £23, £25, somewhere around there, all day long, but they're never usually in great condition, and for that money they're never in a box. So I managed to find this one for a very good price, in very good condition, and it had a very good box as well. Now I have shown you this car in a previous video that I made, and I was saying to you that I was going to do a Swift Slot Super Tune on it, but I was torn because it's such a nice car, and I also have very fond memories of my original car, and I have decided not to do anything with this car. Now there are plenty of other RS200s now to buy from Scale Auto and so on, and they're much better handling cars than this one will ever be. And I think, and I'm pretty sure, that Scalextric have actually re-released this car into a better version as well. Just wondering if that back end isn't quite seated in there, because it does seem like it's supposed to clip in. I'm not sure, maybe, I don't know. Anyway, we'll carry on. So yeah, so this car has been done before, or done since this release by other brands, and including Scalextric, and there'll be a much better handling car than this. And I just remember this from the day, and I really just want to leave it. Absolutely love the front of this car. It looks fantastic, and I think this old car looks better by a long way, in fact, than the new Scale Auto RS200. That car, to me, it doesn't really look. I've raced against them many times. They just don't do anything for me. But this old car, I know I'm a bit biased because I used to have one, but it just looks fantastic. I absolutely love this car. A little fun fact, the doors on the original RS200 were actually derived from a Sierra door. I think they might have been shortened a little bit, but it was basically a Sierra door. It's probably the only bit on the car that was derived from a Sierra, but yeah, the door was. So there we are. So we've got really nice air scoops on there, not broken. We've got the rear view mirrors, the door mirrors, all completely still intact. Obviously rally car, so we've got twin drivers. Nice little spoiler there, it's not all chipped. Got some nice rear lights, again, all in place, they're not fallen out. And the other thing we got that's very good are these wheels. They're just perfect. There's no sort of fading of the chrome. They're that lovely sort of black chrome. They look really good on this car, and they are completely intact and present on this car, and they're also not slipping on the axle. And again, these tyres feel reasonably grippy, so we should be okay, not too bad. We've also got one pulley on the axle here. I'm not sure if it would have had a second pulley on this car. It probably should have done, but they're very easy to replace these belts. You just go on eBay, you measure the diameter, and there's loads of black bands to buy on eBay. You don't have to buy them for this particular car. You can buy them from any sort of, just type in O-ring. Once you've measured the diameter and the length, just type in black O-ring, and there's millions of them for sale. So you can get these O-rings all day long with no problems at all. And as you can see, the hole in the bottom there is probably made for a long can, or at least it might have had visions of getting a long can or a different motor, because we've got an S can in there now with some spacers in there. And I suspiciously see a rear spacer in there, very similar to the BMW that I'd not seen before. So this is interesting. So there we are. So that's very nice engine details. That's another thing I remember from this car, was how nice the detail was in the back, because you've got a nice bit of distance between the glass and the engine. It looks really, really nice with that chrome engine coming through. Gives it a lot of depth. And this car was sort of just on the cusp of when we were getting better detailed cars. During the middle of the 80s, everything kind of started to change. We were starting to get cars that looked a little bit better. They were moving out of those sort of 70s looking cars where they were quite crude and quite basic, and we're moving into sort of the 90s era where we're getting a lot more detail. And this car crosses over that sort of time period, and because of that we got a really nice looking car as well. So we got clear lights in the front lights are lit, but the rear ones aren't. So let's pop the body off and let's have a look at the chassis. Again, I haven't actually taken this car apart, so you're going to be learning with me. So let's see now. Okay, right, so the front end there, as with some of these cars, they actually unclip. So their front headlights are actually pushed into the body and they're part of the chassis. So you need to sort of stretch the chassis back and then ease it out from the front, and then the back end just pulls away. So here we are. Right, so now we've got some heat post melted in drivers, heat post melted in rear engine there. You got a nice flat chassis there. Looks quite thick now, so we're starting to get a bit of weight in the body. This body's got a fair old bit of weight to it. So the chassis, the interior cockpit there is just clipped in with those clips, and it would just come out at the back. Not going to bother taking that out. There's no real point to it, but you can see what's going on there. And obviously this extension here, so that we can get a nice recess there for the louvers, which do actually stand out very nicely on this car. You can actually see the louvers inside there, which is really good. So there's the body, and here is our chassis. So as you can see, there are no rear lights, but there are two sets of pulleys, and there is the band I was talking about. What I might do actually, just for the benefit of those guys out there that have got one of these cars and you haven't got the band, I shall measure this for you now, and I shall tell you what size band that is. Okay, so the actual thickness of the band is, well, we call that 1.5 mil, because over the years this band has probably shrunk. So that would be a 1.5 mil band. And then if I try and make that as round as I can, we'll see how big it is. I reckon that it is probably going to be around 55 mil. Let me just try a different method. Yeah, so there we are. So I've just drawn a rough circle, as you can see, and I've just tried to manipulate the belt. I just guessed it, and I'm pretty sure I'm there or thereabouts. So that is about 55 mil in diameter. So there we are. So there's your 55 there. And as a matter of interest, for my slot car tyre truer, I actually use a 50 mil and a 53 mil diameter band. So we'll try one of those on this chassis and see if they actually work. Okay, so these belts here are 54 millimeters in diameter. Now they're not going to be the right ones because they're 3 millimeters thick, but we can actually see if a 53 or 54 mil diameter belt would actually be the right size to go on this car. Then you'll at least have a register for the diameter. Yes, there we are. So obviously they're massively too thick, but 54 mil actually fits, and that's not too bad. I mean, you couldn't run with that, it's far too thick, but it does actually fit very, very well in terms of length. So if you wanted to replace your belt on this particular car, you can definitely run with a 55 or a 54 mil diameter belt. And like I say, the actual diameter of the belt here, that is actually a 1.5 mil belt, and that would work really, really well. So just go on eBay and you can find the size that you need if you need to replace it. So this one's measuring 1.3 mil, 1.5 mil will work. Anyway, that's entirely by the by. So we've got the internal chassis here, as we can see, and the light pod, that's actually pushed in there quite hard. Oh, I see, it's clipped in. So we can unclip that, and we can unclip, oh, there we are, right, so there we are, that clips in. So we've got that. Now that's an ordinary style filament bulb in there. Now I've actually found that you can replace those filament bulbs just with straight up LEDs, and they work really well. Obviously you need to pop a resistor in there, but if you don't want to put one of these rather dim filament bulbs in there, just whack an LED in there with a resistor of the correct size. You can replace those bulbs really easily. And again, I was right. That doesn't look like it might stand the test of time for very long, mightn't it? That's quite loose. This car could probably do with a bit of a tune-up, to be honest. But as you can see on this particular car, we've got another style of motor mount. So just pop that out. So we've got a tube type deal in the front, or in the back of the motor, the front of the car, and then we've got this rather convoluted stepped collar. So I wonder if this car originally started out life with a long can. I wonder actually, let's see if we can put a standard long can in this chassis. Okay, so I've got this Scale Auto motor here that I've had to take out of something for some project or another. So that's a standard long can motor. I wonder if it'll go in. Let's just try. You're learning with me. That's a pity it doesn't quite go. The front end, no. So we've got a little rebate just here and here, which would stop that centerpiece from clipping in, and I think the centerpiece there have got half a chance of going in, but you still can't because the back end you'd need a collar. So I wonder if that collar there, yeah, that kind of fits on there, but then it's going to be too long. But you could always chop that down. So yeah, so you could actually, I'm sort of doing half a video here, aren't I? You could actually probably shoehorn this motor into this car by trimming off those little wings there, and that front end then would clip in, or the back end if you like, and you could probably chop this piece down and pop it on the back of that motor and actually clip it in the back and convert this car into a long can. That would be quite an interesting little project in itself. Anyway, I digress yet again. So as you can see, we got a standard S-can motor. It's got a plastic gear in there. I say it's plastic. Let me tap it with my teeth and see if it is. Believe it or not, guys, that motor pinion is metal. I've just tapped it against my teeth, and as far as I can tell, that pinion is actually metal, which is a first. I've never seen a Skelectric's car of this era with a metal pinion, unless, of course, that BMW is a metal pinion. It was just very grey. Anyway, you guys can correct me in the comments. But again, we've got a clear gear on the back axle there, and actually, I'm thinking out loud again, this has got those same grey bearings as that BMW and the same sort of clear gear. Now I wonder if that BMW really did actually have a metal pinion. So very interesting. And also another interesting thing is we've actually got what I believe to be, no, I'm wrong again, we got plastic pulleys. I thought they might have been aluminium, but they're actually plastic pulleys on the, are they plastic on the front as well? Who knows? This is really quite interesting. I'm learning with you guys. No, that's plastic. Okay, so we've got the standard plastic bearings on the front, plastic pulleys, and I wonder if the pulleys are the same as the wheels. They may or may not be. I don't think they're part of the wheels, but there we are. So that's been a bit of an adventure, and I did digress very slightly. Starting to think of what I can tune, which is probably not what we're supposed to be doing on this video. Anyway, so let's put all this car back together again, and then we can take her to the track and just watch her gently cruise around. So there we are. That's a short review of one of the slot cars that I've bought recently. So I hope you've enjoyed this sort of content, and if you have, maybe you'll subscribe. And if you could hit the little bell button, that would be awesome. So until the next time, thank you very much.